Cleveland, Ohio, 1995. The air bites with the sharp chill of late October, the kind of cold that seeps into bones and lingers. I sit on the cracked concrete steps of a boarded-up house, my knees pulled tight to my chest, arms wrapped around them for warmth. The jacket I'm wearing is too thin, one of the last things my mother bought me before she started disappearing for days at a time. The zipper's broken, and the wind finds its way in. Inside the house, if you can even call it that, there's nothing. No food in the fridge, just a sour smell and a single can of soda that rolled to the back. The electricity was cut off weeks ago. The $2 in my pocket might as well be nothing. It won't buy a meal, won't buy warmth, won't buy my mother's return. I know this isn't the first time she's left me alone. But tonight feels different. The streetlights flicker, casting long shadows that stretch and shrink like ghosts. I count them, one after another, trying to keep my mind from wandering to where she might be, who she might be with, why she didn't take me. The cold makes my fingers stiff, my toes numb inside my worn-out sneakers. I press my forehead against my knees and close my eyes, just for a second, just to rest. Sleep comes in uneasy waves, dragging me under despite the cold. I dream of voices, laughing, shouting, fading in and out. Then, nothing. Morning comes with the sound of tires on gravel. A car door slams, and I jerk awake, my neck stiff from sleeping hunched over. The sunlight hurts my eyes. For a second, I think it's her. That she's finally back. But it's not my mother. A woman stands in front of me, her breath visible in the cold air. She's wearing a thick coat, gloves, boots, Rayolle winter clothes. Her face is serious, but not unkind. A badge hangs from her lanyard, swinging slightly as she crouches down to my level. I don't move. I don't speak. I've seen social workers before. They ask questions, make promises, then leave. But this woman doesn't ask anything. She just looks at me, really looks, like she's seeing something more than just another kid left behind. Then, without a word, she reaches into her car and pulls out a thermos. The smell of hot chocolate cuts through the cold, sweet and thick. She pours some into a cup and holds it out. My hands shake when I take it, the warmth almost painful against my frozen fingers. I expect her to start talking, to ask where my mother is, where I've been sleeping, if I have anyone to call. But she doesn't. She just watches me drink, her expression unreadable. When the cup is empty, she takes it back, screws the thermos shut, and tucks it into her bag. Then she opens the passenger door of her car. "Come on," she says. Not a question. A decision. I hesitate. I know what happens if I get in that car. There's no coming back from this. But the house behind me is empty. The streets are cold. And my mother isn't here. So I stand up, my legs stiff from the night, and climb inside. The heater is on. The seat is warm. The woman doesn't say anything as she pulls away from the curb. She just drives, her hands steady on the wheel. And just like that, I'm gone. The car ride feels endless. I stare out the window as Cleveland blurs past. Dirty snow piled on sidewalks, boarded up storefronts, people walking with their heads down against the wind. The woman, Linda, doesn't speak. The radio plays softly, some old soul song I don't recognize. My stomach growls, but I press my hands against it, willing it to be silent. We pull into a parking lot outside a brick apartment building. It's not fancy, but the windows aren't broken, and the front door has an actual lock. Linda cuts the engine and turns to me. "Wait here," she says. She comes back with a bag from the corner store, bread, peanut butter, a carton of milk. I follow her up the stairs, my legs heavy. The hallway smells like cleaning products and something faintly sweet, like cinnamon. Apartment 3B is small. A couch with a faded floral pattern, a coffee table stacked with books, a tiny kitchen with dishes drying on a rack. There's a photo on the wall, a younger Linda in a graduation cap, smiling. No other people in the frame. She hands me a towel and points to the bathroom. "Shower's hot if you want it." The water burns at first, but I don't turn it down. I scrub until my skin is raw, watching the dirt swirl down the drain. When I come out, there's a plate on the table. Peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, a glass of milk. Linda's on the phone in the other room, her voice low. I eat slowly, waiting for the catch. There's always a catch. But days pass, and nothing changes. Linda leaves early, comes home late. There's always food, nothing fancy, but enough. Cereal for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, sometimes spaghetti or soup from a can. She buys me a toothbrush, a hairbrush, socks without holes. One morning, she hands me a backpack. Inside, notebooks, pencils, a calculator. You start school Monday, she says. I stare at her. What if they ask about my mom? She doesn't flinch. Tell them to call me. The social workers come 4 weeks later. A knock at the door, 2 strangers in stiff clothes. Linda steps outside to talk. Through the thin walls, I hear words like placement and foster system. When she comes back in, her jaw is tight. She sits across from me at the table. They want to take you somewhere else, she says. I don't ask where. I've heard stories. Linda leans forward. I'm going to fight it. She does. Paperwork piles up on the kitchen table. Forms, pay stubs, letters from her job. She takes off work to go to court. I sit in a hallway outside the courtroom, swinging my legs, listening to muffled voices. When the door opens, Linda's eyes are red, but she's holding a piece of paper. Temporary guardianship, she says. For now. That night, she makes pancakes for dinner, a celebration. I drown mine in syrup, the sweetness sticking to my teeth. Linda watches me eat, her coffee going cold in front of her. The apartment still feels too quiet, too clean, too much like someone else's life. But when I lie awake later, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, I realize something. For the first time in months, I know where I'll be tomorrow. Time passes in a strange way, slow and fast all at once. The little girl who arrived at Linda's apartment with nothing but a too-thin jacket and hollow eyes is gone. In her place stands a teenager with sharp edges, all guarded silence and watchful stares. I'm taller now, my hair braided tight against my scalp, my hands no longer trembling when someone raises their voice. But inside, I still feel like that child on the steps, waiting to be left behind again. School is a battlefield. The other kids whisper when I walk by, about my clothes, about how I live with a woman who isn't my mother, about things they don't understand. Sometimes it's just looks. Sometimes it's words spat like poison. Project kid. Freeloader. Worse things, too. I learn to keep my head down, to make myself smaller, invisible. But Linda won't let me disappear. She comes home exhausted most days, her nursing scrubs wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes, only to sit at the kitchen table with textbooks spread out around her, studying for some accounting certification. I watch her sometimes from the doorway, the way her fingers tap against the calculator, the way she mutters formulas under her breath. She could quit. She should sleep. But she doesn't. So I start trying too. At first, it's just to prove something. To her, to myself, to the teachers who glance at me like I'm a lost cause. Math comes easiest. Numbers don't care where you come from. Equations don't ask about your mother. I lose myself in them, in the clean, predictable logic of problems that always have solutions. Linda notices. She starts bringing home extra worksheets from the community college, old textbooks with cracked spines. She doesn't praise me, not in the way some parents do, with empty cheers and gold stars. Instead, she asks questions, makes me explain my answers, pushes me further. When I'm 17, a letter arrives from Ohio State University. Full scholarship. Economics program. I sit on the floor with my back against the couch, the paper clutched in my hands, unable to breathe. Linda reads it over my shoulder, her hands resting on my shoulders. Then, without a word, she walks into her bedroom and shuts the door. I hear her crying through the thin walls, quiet, muffled sobs that she'd never let me see. 2 weeks later, her beat-up Honda is gone. She comes home with an envelope full of cash and a bus pass. "You're going," she says. No room for argument. I want to protest. To tell her I can't take this from her, not after everything. But the look in her eyes stops me. This isn't a gift. It's an expectation. So I pack my bags. The night before I leave, I find her at the kitchen table, bent over her accounting homework like always. The apartment is too quiet. The fridge hums. A faucet drips. I stand there, watching her, this woman who fought for me, who gave up her car, her sleep, her quiet life. And for the first time, I let myself believe, really believe, that she isn't going anywhere. I don't say it. She wouldn't want me to. But I sit down across from her and open my own textbook. We study in silence, the two of us, until the sun comes up. The university campus stretches before me like a foreign country. Manicured lawns, towering brick buildings, students who walk with the easy confidence of people who've never wondered where their next meal would come from. For the first week, I sleep with my scholarship letter under my pillow, half convinced I'll wake up to find this was all a mistake. But the numbers don't lie. My grades hold steady. The professors nod when I speak in class. The other students start to recognize me, not as the girl from nowhere, but as the one who always has the right answer. I stop slouching. I stop waiting to be exposed as a fraud. During summers, I trade textbooks for spreadsheets at a downtown financial firm. The office smells like coffee and expensive perfume. My fingers fly across the keyboard, faster than anyone else's. I learn to dress the part, blazers with the sleeves rolled up, shoes that click against marble floors. At night I study the analysts, how they talk, how they move, how they command rooms full of men twice their age. I file it all away. Graduation comes in a blur of caps and gowns and handshakes. Linda sits in the front row, her hands clasped tight in her lap, her face wet with tears she doesn't bother to wipe away. Chicago is louder than I expect. Taller, hungrier. My tiny apartment has a view of the L train rattling past at all hours. The investment firm where I land a job is all glass walls and sharp edges. At first, they give me the grunt work, data entry, coffee runs. I do it without complaint. I stay late. I memorize every report that crosses my desk. By 25, I'm leading meetings. By 27, I'm advising clients with portfolios bigger than my entire childhood neighborhood. The money piles up in my bank account, but it's the respect that intoxicates me. The way the room goes quiet when I speak, the way men in $1,000 suits lean forward to catch my words. Still, something gnaws at me. Late at night, staring at my pristine condo, I think about the businesses I passed growing up. The hair salons, the corner stores, the repair shops run by people who looked like me, who worked twice as hard for half as much. The consulting firm starts in my living room. Just me, a laptop, and a stack of business cards I design myself. My first clients are a soul food restaurant struggling with expansion, a black-owned bookstore drowning in debt. I charge them less than I should. I work weekends. I lose sleep. When the first check from a successful client clears, I call Linda. "Come to Chicago," I say. Her protest is automatic. The cost, the hassle, her job at the clinic. But I've learned from the best. I wear her down with logic, with numbers, with the simple truth that I need her. The house we buy is modest by my new standards, but palatial compared to apartment 3B. It has a backyard with real grass, a kitchen with appliances that don't rattle, a guest room that stays empty because Linda refuses to sleep that far away from me. Some nights, I catch her running her hands over the walls, the furniture, like she's convincing herself it's real. I know the feeling. The neighborhood is quiet. No sirens. No shouting. Just the hum of central air and the occasional bark of a dog down the street. I lie in bed and listen to the silence. It doesn't feel like waiting anymore. Linda plants a garden out back. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs that make the whole house smell like summer. I hire a contractor to build raised beds so she doesn't have to bend down so much. She swats at me when she sees the bill but spends hours out there anyway, her hands in the dirt, her face turned toward the sun. For the first time in my life, I understand what safety feels like. Not just the absence of danger, but the certainty that the ground beneath you won't disappear. The firm grows. My name starts appearing in business journals. Invitations to conferences pile up on my desk. People ask for my story, and for the first time, I don't edit out the hard parts. Linda keeps every article, every mention. She frames my first magazine feature and hangs it in the hallway, right next to her old nursing school diploma. I work late most nights, but now when I come home, the lights are always on. There's always food in the fridge. Always someone waiting. The girl from the steps would never believe this. Sometimes, I still don't. The envelope sits on my desk for 3 days before I open it. Thick, cream-colored paper with my name typed neatly across the front. Too formal to be junk mail. Too impersonal to be from anyone I know. I run my finger under the flap, the paper resisting slightly before giving way. Inside, there's a letter from a social worker I've never met, words arranged in careful bureaucratic language that can't soften what they say. My mother is out of prison. My mother is sick. My mother is asking to see me. The room tilts. I grip the edge of the desk, my fingers pressing into the wood grain hard enough to leave marks. The air feels too thick, too warm. 20 years disappear in an instant, and suddenly I'm that child again. Cold, hungry, waiting on steps that never led anywhere good. I throw the letter in the trash. Then fish it out an hour later, smoothing the crumpled paper against my thigh. Linda finds me on the back porch that evening, the letter clutched in my hand, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors I can't name. She doesn't ask. She just sits beside me, her gardening gloves still damp from watering the tomatoes. I won't see her, I say, my voice too sharp, too loud in the quiet yard. Linda picks up the letter, reads it slowly. Her hands don't shake. Her breath doesn't hitch. She's always been better at this than me, at facing things head-on without flinching. When she finishes, she folds the paper neatly along its original creases. People change, she says, so quiet I almost miss it. I want to scream. To throw something. To ask how she can say that after everything, after all the nights she held me when I woke up screaming, after all the school forms where she had to write guardian instead of mother. But the words die in my throat. Because Linda of all people would know about change. About second chances. The social worker calls the next day. My mother isn't asking for money, she explains. Isn't asking for forgiveness. Just wants to meet, just once. Stage 4 cancer, she adds. Like I need the clarification. Like I might mistake this for anything other than a deathbed request. I hang up without promising anything. That night, I stand in front of the mirror in my bathroom, studying my face. The shape of my nose, the curve of my lips, all the features I've spent a lifetime pretending didn't come from someone else. I try to remember her face, but all I see is the back of a coat disappearing down a street, the slam of a car door, the empty space where a parent should have been. The anger burns bright at first, familiar as an old friend. But beneath it, something else stirs, something small and fragile and terrifying. Curiosity. Not about the woman she became, but about the child I was. About the pieces of myself I left behind on those cold steps. I don't tell Linda when I call the social worker back. Don't tell her when I arrange to meet at a diner halfway between Chicago and wherever my mother's been living. I tell myself it's just to look. Just to see. Just to finally prove to myself that some doors should stay closed. But when the day comes, I sit in my car outside the diner for 20 minutes, my hands clenched around the steering wheel, watching people come and go through the glass doors. A family with laughing children. An old couple sharing a slice of pie. Ordinary people having ordinary days. The clock on the dashboard ticks forward. My phone buzzes with a text from Linda. Just a photo of the garden, the tomatoes ripening on the vine. No questions. No pressure. I take a breath. Turn off the engine. The past waits inside, in a booth by the window. And for the first time in 20 years, I'm about to face it. The motel parking lot cracks under my shoes as I walk toward room 112. Broken asphalt, weeds pushing through, the smell of gasoline and fried food from the nearby highway. My fingers tremble around the strap of my purse, but I don't stop walking. The curtains in the window twitch. Someone's watching me approach. When the door opens, the woman standing there is both familiar and a complete stranger. Her hair, once thick and dark like mine, has thinned to wisps under a faded scarf. The sharp cheekbones I see in my own reflection now jut from sallow skin stretched too tight. But her eyes, those haven't changed. The same shape, the same deep brown, staring at me with a mix of hope and fear that makes my stomach twist. She doesn't reach for me, doesn't try to hug me, just steps aside to let me in, her movements slow and careful like everyone costs her something. The room smells like medicine and cheap air freshener. Pills line the nightstand next to a Bible with a cracked spine. A suitcase sits open on the dresser, clothes neatly folded, not enough to suggest she planned to stay long. We sit on opposite sides of the bed, the mattress dipping between us. She speaks first, her voice raspy from treatments or time or maybe just disuse. She tells me she's proud of me. Not the words I expected. Not "I'm sorry," or "I love you," or any of the things little girls dream of hearing. Just that simple statement, heavy with everything she can't bring herself to say. I don't cry. Don't yell. Just listen as she talks about seeing my picture in a magazine at the prison library, about tracking me down through the social worker, about knowing she had no right to ask but doing it anyway. When she starts coughing, deep, wet sounds that shake her whole frame, I get up and pour her a glass of water from the bathroom sink. The tap water runs brown for a second before clearing. I wait until it's cold, until the pipes stop groaning. She takes the glass with both hands, her fingers brushing mine for half a second. Her skin feels papery, too warm. I write a check before I leave. Enough for better doctors, a cleaner room, whatever small comforts money can buy at this stage. She tries to refuse, but I fold the paper into her palm and close her fingers around it. Not forgiveness. Not love. Just acknowledgement that she exists, that what happened between us mattered enough to warrant this much. The hospice calls me when it's over. 3 months and 12 days after our meeting. I arrange the funeral. Simple, quick, more for the social workers than for either of us. Only a handful of people come. None of them know me. None of them ask. Linda stands beside me the whole time, her hand steady in mine. When the preacher talks about redemption and second chances, I don't look at the casket. I look at the trees swaying in the wind, at the way the sunlight filters through the leaves, at the living, breathing proof that survival sometimes looks like love. That night, back in Chicago, I sit at my desk with blank paper and a pen. The words come slowly at first, then all at once. A foundation for kids like me, for the ones left on doorsteps and in group homes, for the ones who think no one will ever come back for them. I sketch out budgets, programs, mentorship ideas. Linda brings me tea and doesn't comment on the wet spots on the paper. The past doesn't disappear. It never does. But it stops being a weight and starts being a compass. In the morning, I call my lawyer. The paperwork takes weeks, but when it's done, the letterhead reads, Destiny's Child Foundation, in clean black type. Linda frames the first copy and hangs it in the hallway, right between my college degree and her nursing license. The girl who slept on those cold steps would never believe this life. But the woman I've become does. 5 years have a way of reshaping the world without you noticing. The foundation office hums with activity now. Bright murals covering the walls, the constant chatter of social workers on phones, the squeak of sneakers as kids dart between mentoring sessions. My signature appears on checks large enough to make my younger self's head spin. Scholarship letters. Renovation plans for community centers. Payroll for staff who look at me with something uncomfortably close to awe. Linda turned 70 last month. She still gardens, though now she lets the neighborhood kids help, showing them how to space tomato plants, how to tell when okra's ready to pick. They call her Miss Linda, in that sing-song way children have, clinging to her apron strings like she's always been there. Like she'll always be. Our house, the word still feels foreign even after all these years, has become something of a hub. Teens from the foundation drop by unannounced, drawn by the smell of Linda's cooking or just the promise of a place where no one tells them to leave. My old bedroom stays made up for overnight guests, the quilt smoothed tight across the mattress, fresh towels always waiting. Tonight is different. Quiet. Just the two of us on the back porch as fireflies blink lazily over the lawn. The swing creaks under our weight, the rhythm steady as breath. Linda's hands rest in her lap, the knuckles slightly swollen, the skin thinner than it used to be. I reach over and cover one with my own, feeling the familiar ridges of scars from old burns and needle sticks. No words pass between us. None are needed. The sunset paints the sky in shades of peach and lavender, the same colors as the dress I wore to my first college interview, the one Linda ironed 3 times to get the wrinkles just right. Somewhere down the street, a dog barks. Cicadas sing in the trees. Ordinary sounds of an ordinary evening. My phone buzzes in my pocket, another email about tomorrow's board meeting, another request for an interview, another reminder of the life I've built. I leave it untouched. The foundation's annual report sits on the coffee table inside, filled with numbers and testimonials and glossy photos of success stories. But this, Linda's calloused hand in mine, the weight of her shoulder against my own, the quiet certainty that I belong here, this is the real measure of my life. The girl who once slept on concrete steps would weep to see this. The woman she became simply tightens her grip and watches the light fade from the sky, grateful beyond words for the woman beside her who turned a house into a home, a child into a person, a story of abandonment into one of homecoming. The stars appear one by one. We stay there, swinging gently, long after the mosquitoes come out and the night grows cool. There's nowhere else I need to be.